911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. Not sure if they're out of gas. There's one car here. You guys take to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
That's the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah. No, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hey friends, me again. Welcome back to my channel. It's good to see you. Today we are not going to be talking about murder, but instead we're going to be talking about a very bizarre missing persons case. Not nearly as violent, maybe, but it's definitely ominous in the sense of what information we have and what theories we can gain from that. And that is the missing person case of 26-year-old Brandon Lawson. Our story begins on August 8th, 2013. Brandon arrived back at his home that he had shared with his longtime girlfriend, Lawson, and the two of them got into an argument. This happened around 11 o'clock that night, and the argument was about whether or not Brandon was back on drugs. You see, Brandon had been clean for about 6 months at the time. He had just been offered a new job, and he had just passed a drug test. But he hadn't been home the night before, leading Ladissa to have her suspicions. Her suspicions were warranted because according to Brandon's brother, Kyle, Brandon had actually been in contact with Kyle and had requested for him to set him up with someone to purchase meth from, which he did. The fight culminated with Brandon deciding that he was going to drive to his dad's house, which was about a 3-hour drive away. And Ladissa said it wasn't uncommon for the two of them to step out for 20 or 30 minutes to cool off when they got into a fight. But he was going to be driving 3 hours and staying the night elsewhere. So he got in his car and got in his truck and he took off. About 40 minutes to an hour into his drive, that's when the first phone call was made. And that phone call was made to his brother Kyle. On the phone call, he had told his brother that he was being chased out of town, specifically by 3 Mexican neighbors, and also that he had run out of gas. Kyle, who had helped him out with securing meth the night before, asked Brandon if he was hallucinating, asked him if he was on drugs, and Brandon said that he wasn't. Kyle decided that he was going to help him with the gas situation and got off the phone. Kyle did not have a gas can, so he called Ladissa to see if he could borrow her gas can, and she said that he could. He and his girlfriend went to Ladissa's house to pick the gas can up that she had left out on the porch and went to find Brandon's truck. He didn't go to the gas station because his check had not cleared from work, so his plan was to pick Brandon up, take Brandon to the gas station, get the gas that they needed, and then take Brandon back to his truck. Now, at this time, Brandon had also made a phone call to 911, which we will listen to here in a minute. There are a lot of speculations about what is said in this call. The call is not 100% clear. The audio's been slowed down, the audio's been cleaned up, but it's still not certain exactly what Brandon is saying in the phone call. What we do know is that on the phone call, he does tell the operator he is not in his vehicle. We do know that he told the operator that he was in a field. It sounds like he tells the operator he is being chased into the woods. It sounds like he tells the operator that he hit somebody, and the operator clarifies. The operator asks Brandon if an ambulance is needed, to which Brandon responds no, but Brandon does request police aid. He requests the cops. Some people speculate that there are other voices on the phone, implying that Brandon is not there alone. Some people speculate that you can hear gunshots on the phone, but others think that that is just the sound of vehicles that are driving over a bridge. Like I said, the call is not incredibly clear. Another unfortunate bit surrounding the phone call in itself is the 911 location that he called was not incredibly well staffed, and the call was actually routed to a nursing home, and the call was not taken by an actual 911 trained operator, but it was taken by basically by like a nurse who was working at the nursing home. So you'll hear on the 911 call, she doesn't ask for his name, she doesn't ask for his phone number, she doesn't ask for his location. She does try to call him back later on, but it goes to voicemail and she is not able to contact Brandon again.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. Not sure if they're out of gas. There's one car here. You got to take it to the woods. Pretty hard.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
No, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
8 minutes after Brandon's phone call to 911, another phone call goes in to like a non-emergency line, and it's from a truck driver who is reporting Brandon's vehicle as being abandoned and parked haphazardly on the side of the road. It was still parked over the line, and it being by now, late at night, the truck driver thought that it was unsafe where it was, so he called it in. Also during this time, Brandon's phone was making and receiving multiple phone calls. He had tried to call his neighbor. His neighbor tried to call him back. He called Kyle on more than one occasion. He called Ladissa on more than one occasion. But all phone calls either went to voicemail, were very short. Kyle wasn't able to keep him on the phone. And that could either be from Brandon hanging up or the calls being dropped, as the area he was in, the service was pretty poor where he was. At one time, one of these phone calls, that Kyle's girlfriend was actually on the phone. It said that she heard that he was about 10 minutes away, please hurry, and that he was bleeding. And it was said that he got to his truck around the same time that an officer did, a sheriff's deputy. The officer, however, was not responding to Brandon's 911 call. The officer was responding to the call about Brandon's vehicle being parked on the side of the road. So they got there at around the same time. And also at that time, Kyle had received another call from Brandon. This phone call from Brandon to Kyle is one of the things that first grabbed my attention about this case, because it kind of creeped me out, and we'll go into it a little bit more. On the phone, Brandon told Kyle, I can see you, I can hear you, I'm right here. Something along those lines. Kyle had no idea Brandon had called 911. Kyle had no idea that Brandon requested the help of police. Kyle did know that Brandon had an arrest warrant out for his arrest, and Kyle had thought maybe Brandon was hiding, and that's why he could see him and why he could hear him, but Kyle could not see or hear Brandon. He thought that Brandon saw the sheriff there, the sheriff's deputy there, and was waiting for him to leave before he came out. Kyle explained to the sheriff that this was his brother's vehicle. He went and got a gas can because his brother had run out of gas, and he was there to help him, but he didn't know where his brother was. And so the sheriff's deputy had, opened the door. The door was unlocked. The keys were gone. His phone was gone, but the door was unlocked. He opened it. He turned the hazard on. He put in a notice for the vehicle to be towed by 8 o'clock the next morning if it was not moved. And Kyle told the officer that he was going to stay and look for his brother a little bit. The officer left. Kyle drove up the road a little bit. Kyle circled back around. Before Kyle had decided to go back to his home, he had left the gas can in the bed of Brandon's truck with the idea that he would come back later, and left. I mean, I don't necessarily fault Kyle for that. He had a life of his own. He had a 4-year-old child, and it's from my understanding he had his 4-year-old and his girlfriend with him while all this was taking place, and this is at night. I have kids. I have 2 little kids. I can't imagine taking my 4-year-old out on a middle of the night excursion like this. So he left. Now, Kyle did say that at one point in the night, and he thinks it was around 3 in the morning, at that point, all calls that were sent to Brandon immediately went to voicemail. And now the deputy there did note that there was no damage on Brandon's truck, and it's important to note that. And the reason why I think it's so important and why it leads way into some of the theories is because on the 911 call, Brandon had said he ran into them or ran into someone, and the operator who answered the phone took that to mean had gotten into an accident, had ran his car into someone. Now, the theory that surrounds why it is important to know that there was no damage to his vehicle was, one, if it was an accident, it wasn't a bad one. I mean, there was no damage to his vehicle. But it kind of gives leeway to maybe he literally did not run his vehicle into someone. Maybe he ran into someone. Instead of physically running into someone with his car and literally running into someone, maybe it means he ran into someone figuratively, as in stumbled across them. Several hours later, Kyle's check had cleared, and so he went back to Brandon's truck to see if Brandon still needed help getting gas. At that point, Brandon still had not returned to his truck. Now, the next day, Brandon's family would begin their search to the best of their ability. They would go where they were able to go, where they had permission to go, trying to find Brandon around the point of where his vehicle was. However, despite the family's pleas, the police wouldn't actually begin to help look for Brandon until August 16th, so about a week later. And they did so by using helicopters and thermal imaging. However, the family did complain about this because it was a week later, and if Brandon had gotten lost in the area, if he had passed away, thermal imaging wouldn't have helped find him because a dead body would not be putting off the heat. A little while later, almost 3 weeks, it was 20 days after this, the police agreed to do a ground search for Brandon, and they did. They still came up with nothing. The final search for Brandon in an official capacity was done on October 24th. And on October 24th, they brought in 6 cadaver dogs. They brought in their trained handlers, and they did another ground search for Brandon, and they came up again with nothing. So the cadaver dogs didn't find any smell of remains or body or clothes or nothing. The family is unhappy with the progress being made by the police. The police didn't even want to look for Brandon. By this point, they are saying that Brandon either ran off with another woman or said that he was actively hiding from police and from being found because he had an arrest warrant. While all this is speculation, and I can't say for certain because I'm not Brandon, I don't know what was going on in his head. As far as running off with another woman, he had been with Ladissa since he was 16 years old. They were high school sweethearts. They'd been together for 10 years. They had three kids together, and Ladissa acted as a mom to the fourth. I mean, they were a pretty happy family. Anybody who knew Brandon all universally agreed that him and Ladissa were great together and that Brandon loved his kids more than anything else in the world. It does not seem like something he would do to run off from his kids, even if he is running off from Ladissa, which again in itself, they had been together for so long and seemed so happy together. He wouldn't leave his kids. He said, I'm a mom, I have 2 kids. I can't imagine leaving my kids. And Brandon was much the same way. His kids were his life. His kids were his everything. It doesn't seem like he would just pack up and disappear from his kids. The other thing that the police speculated is that he was on the run because he had an active arrest warrant. And that was true. And Kyle had even said that, you know, he kind of kept it on the down low from the deputy that night that he was speaking with Brandon and that he suspected Brandon was close by because he thought he was helping his brother out because his brother had an active arrest warrant. Since then, however, Ladissa has said that her and Brandon had started saving up money for the point of hiring a lawyer because they were going to pay off his fines and work toward handling this warrant. And it was a warrant that was 8 years old. If he was concerned about the arrest warrant, he wouldn't have just all of a sudden started running from the police. And not only that, he called 911 himself and requested the help of police. So to me, you wouldn't call the police if you were hiding from the police. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense. Now, some people think that he was high off his mind. Like I said, even his brother had asked him that night, hey, are you hallucinating? And I don't know if that's true or not. It's all speculation. Nobody was there that night. However, I have listened to the 911 call multiple times. We've listened to it a few times together. I think he sounds panicked. I think he sounds out of breath, like he may have been running. I don't think he sounds delusional, but maybe he might have been. Now, what's unfortunate is sometime after the police search, it came out, some new information came out that Brandon's cell phone had pinged at a cell location about 3 miles away from his vehicle. This area was uninvestigated by the police. The police said that they were no longer going to be searching for Brandon until they got new evidence. This upset the family because as far as they were concerned, this cell phone ping was new evidence, and I don't think that they're wrong. The family did the best that they could to check this area, but they were really kind of dissuaded by the police, who would frequently stop their efforts. In itself is kind of suspect. Also kind of suspect is the local paper had been publishing stories kind of backing the theories that Brandon had run away on his own, that this was the choices that he made, and that he wasn't a missing person, but he was more of a runaway person. The reason why I say this was suspect is because the person who ran this paper was the wife of the sheriff. So one of the theories is that this involves the police somehow, that maybe Brandon had run into the police doing something nefarious and that it's a big cover-up. I don't necessarily believe that. I think the police just didn't do a great job, and if they're covering anything up, they're covering up how poorly they handled the missing persons case. Because if I saw the police doing something that the police shouldn't be doing, my first thought wouldn't be to call 911. Why would you call the police when the police are the ones behaving badly, especially when you had been in contact with your brother before then? You know what I mean? I'd call my brother and say, hey, I don't really trust the police because of X, Y, and Z. I need you to get here quickly. What I think the most likely outcome, based off of the little bit of information that we know, and how I interpret the 911 phone call and how I interpret his vehicle and his actions. Was he on drugs that night? I don't know. But I don't think that that is the ultimate mystery here. Okay, here's my theory, and this is all speculation. This is just what I've gathered from the information that I know. My thought is, I don't know about you guys, but unless I am financially in a bind, I don't run out of gas. I mean, I'm aware of my gas level, and I don't run out of gas. I get my gas when it's low. I don't run out of gas. Unless I'm in a financial situation where I physically cannot afford gas, I don't. And maybe that's just me. Everybody's different. Like I said, this is speculation. What I wonder is, was he driving? And did he figuratively run into somebody doing something that, whether it's, whether it's something drug related, whether it's something, homicide related, who knows? Maybe he just ran into somebody doing something bad, something that they didn't want an onlooker to see. Did that cause these people to chase him, which led him to not wanting to stop to get gas because he was in fear for his life? And then he ran out of gas, and so while being in fear for his life, got out of the vehicle, didn't worry about locking the vehicle, just took off running, which would result in him being winded on the phone when he called 911. I don't know. I feel like maybe that could have been something that happened. I also find it odd that his cell phone pinged 3 miles away from his truck. That is a lot of movement to make on foot in the middle of the night. And for what reason? There was a rest area that was nearby, which I could see him going to the rest area nearby, but it was less than a mile. It wasn't 3 miles away, unless he was very lost. I just don't see why he would be pinging 3 miles away unless he was picked up by somebody. Since then, there's been no leads, no new information. He is still missing, and it's been almost 2 decades. It just makes you wonder how far he went. It makes you wonder if he's dead or alive. Did he get chased by somebody who was up to no good? I don't know. Listen to the 911 call again, and you tell me what you think you hear. Some people think they hear gunshots. Some people think they hear 2 voices. Some people think they hear something about a state trooper, maybe throwing people overboard. I hate suggesting things because then you're prone to the power of suggestion and you hear what's being suggested to you. I will tell you, I don't hear a second voice. I shoot guns as a hobby. I have a couple guns myself. I don't hear something that makes me immediately think gunshot. He's still missing to this day. His family's still actively searching for him. At this point, I think it's safe to assume he's probably dead, but they would like to just have some closure and maybe be able to bring him home to give him a proper goodbye and a proper burial. There is a Facebook group that's been set up by the family that has over 20,000 likes, and it has more information, more pictures, more videos, things that you can go take a look at. I will link it in the description box down below. That way, if you have any information or if you can help this family in some way get the closure that they're looking for, or just keep an eye out. Like I said, he left behind 4 kids. He left behind family. He left behind a girlfriend that he had for 10 years. There are people out there who miss him. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by and chatting with me. This one was a weird one. I think it was definitely a weird one. Leave your theories in the comments before. I will read over them. And until next time, thanks for chatting with me. It's been fun.